The chances of you even getting an interview to any random job you apply to online are really, really low, and there's a lot of stuff working against you from the start. The first thing being like there's just too many applicants, right? The second thing being, unfortunately, there's a lot of isms that is like racism, sexism, nepotism, nameism, etc. HR could just be incompetent.
Look at your HR complaints.
Or the job posting could just be fake. There are some things in our control though, and it's super important we really laser in on those things and do our best to be the best that we can be in those areas. And then we can acknowledge but don't really focus on the stuff that we can't control. As ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And I believe this to be true, of course. I won't do a super deep dive on this video on how to job hunt, but definitely check out the employability framework video for that. I think it will be really, really useful for you. Rather, in this video, I want to visualize and explain the reality of job hunting in terms of fate, effort, and negligence. That is, fate being things that are completely out of your control, which could be positive or negative. Effort being actions you took to help ensure your success. And then negligence being failure to take action out of ignorance or laziness or whatever the case may be. So according to ChatGPT and some random studies I found, you have about a 2% chance of even getting an interview from applying to any given random job online. And if you've ever job hunted before, you might feel 2% is actually kind of generous. So let's just say, for the sake of argument and being easy, if you have an absolutely perfect application, you have about a 5% chance of getting an interview. If everything's perfect, that means you have a 95% chance of not even being contacted for any application that you apply to. And because the odds are so low, it's your responsibility to make sure that like little 5% sliver of the pie is completely maxed out, if that makes sense. And I do want to say I cover this in depth in both my entry-level IT and cybersecurity course. There's like a theory section, practical section, and then a job hunting section. And then the job hunting section, we really kind of like learn how to max out your chances of having successful applications. So just FYI. So basically how you should think about things when you go about job hunting, if you look at this pie or pizza or however you want to think about it, the red portion, the 95% portion, represents the universe kind of working against you. This could be in the form of like just too many applicants, right? All the stuff we talked about before, the racism, all the isms, ageism, etc., incompetent HR, fake job posting, etc. That's that 95%. You can't do anything about it, but there's kind of the remaining 5%, which is your responsibility. So if you put in a theoretical 50% effort, because your original like slice that you're working with is already small, it's like 5%. If you put in 50% effort, your graph is going to look something like this, where, the original 95% chance to not even getting in a call, this area that you're responsible for because you only put in 50% effort, half of that will go to negligence, and then the other half will go to your effort. So this means, in theory, right, you have 2.5% chance to even get a callback, if that makes sense. I know this is a really abstract way to think about things, but it's basically what goes on in my head, and it's helped me a lot when it comes to job hunting and recognizing like what I can change, what I can't change, and where I should put my effort, if that makes sense. And continuing with this example, for the same job, if you put in a theoretical 100% effort, your little 5% slice is going to be completely full, and you'll look something like this, where you have 5% effort, 0% negligence, and then 95% chance like fate and universe is working against you. This is substantially better than 2.5%, because if you think about it, the number of applications you have to submit before you get a a successful, like at least a callback, right? It's going to be half as much, right, if you put in more effort, if that makes sense. And if I'm being honest, these graphs are like really, really generous. Instead of having like a 5% slice, to be honest, it's more like 1% or even less than 1%, where if you do everything perfectly, you have like 1% chance of even getting a callback. There's just too much stuff working against us. And that's why it's so important to submit really quality applications, have like proper quality resume, and do everything that you can do to kind of increase your chances, because that original slice, it's usually really tiny. And if you think about it this way, you can really understand how people can put out like 400, 500, like 1,000 applications and get really minimal response, because the thing that you're working with is only like 1%. And if you submit bad applications, or your resume is messed up, ATS can't read it, or something is wrong, it just vastly like decreases your chance that you're going to get a callback or like anything really. You need to make sure everything is as squared away as possible. But yeah, basically the 2 points I'm trying to illustrate is there's a lot of stuff working against you, but submitting high quality applications will vastly reduce your time to interview. That being said, it's possible for the universe to work in your favor and be nice to you depending on who you are, what you are, etc. Like the red part of the universe working against you, that could decrease, or the universe portion can actually turn green, right? It just depends on the situation and who you are. So for example, we'll say our friend John gets an interview and John has green hair, but the interviewer just so happens to hate the color green or hate people with green hair or whatever the case may be. So John's kind of like get a job pie while having green hair might look something like this, where the universe is working against him like 99.5%. So the thing that John can actually affect is only like 0.5%. So if he does everything perfectly, it's only gonna have like 0.5% chance of passing the interview. Now let's say the interviewer hates green hair, but he loves red hair like a lot. He's like obsessed with it. And so Jane applies and she gets an interview and she shows up to the interview, and because she has red hair, her fate/universe graph actually like turned green, right? And it's sitting at 80%. So the portion that she's responsible for is 20%. So if she puts like 100% effort, that 20% is going to turn green and she have like 100% chance to get a job. But because the interviewer is so obsessed with red hair, even if she's completely negligent and puts like minimal effort in the interviewer, it's possible, due to fate, like the interviewer loving red hair, she just gets hired anyway, right? Based on like fate/universe and having red hair. It sounds really, really dumb, but I'm certain everyone watching this who's an adult who's actually worked before has seen this happen. And red hair and green hair are just like euphemisms for other stuff, right? Could be like genders, race, body type. Could be like, the person they were interviewing likes golf, so they just hired them. This stuff happens like all the time, and it's like quite dumb, right? Again, I just really want to drive my main message home that you really need to focus exactly on the stuff that you can control. Acknowledge the stuff you can't control, but don't spend a lot of energy on it. Just make sure you're as good as you can possibly be. And then when you're actually interviewing, other stuff is important too. You kind of want to like make sure to like look smacks as much as you reasonably can. I talk about this a bit in my desirability framework video. I don't know if I'll release that video before this video, but basically if you look at this graph, all of the green parts that you can actually control, it's important to like max those out as much as you reasonably can. It can only help, right? And you don't know who you're going to be dealing with in the interview either. So you have to do like everything you can to make sure you have an edge, if that makes sense. 100 applications from somebody with really high stats is going to be way more effective than 1,000 applications from somebody who's just half-assing it, or even like 10,000 applications from somebody who's just shooting out like a generic resume that ATS can't read. It's really important to make sure it's high quality, right? Whatever you're doing is like as high quality as reasonably possible. And I do want to say it's kind of possible to like bend or manipulate fate, if that makes sense. So if you think about the pie, like the fate portion of it is usually red, right? You can make conscious decisions to do certain things to kind of reduce the how much fate works against you and stuff. You could like intentionally like go on LinkedIn or something and filter for jobs with a lower application pool, like a lower applicant pool, like less people applying to it, for example. So if you think about it, imagine what your job hunt pie would look like if the applicant pool has like 2,000 applicants, right? Like 2,000 applicants versus 50 applicants versus 2 applicants, right? Obviously the negative fate portion is going to decrease like the lower number of applicants there are. It's just like kind of mathematics, right? Another thing you can do to kind of bend the fate portion of the pie is work on your social network. Social network is a huge hack when it comes to job hunting. It's almost unfair. I should probably talk about it more on my channel, to be honest. It's like really strong. It has like the ability to get you interviews for free, essentially, past interviews for free, essentially, or just get a job for free, essentially, without having to do any of that. The last corporate job I had was like the principal security analyst. I was a contractor at Microsoft making 180K. I could live in Thailand and Japan and do whatever I wanted. That I didn't have to interview for that. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to be like, yeah, okay, let's do this and negotiate salary a little bit. And then I got it because of my social network. And it wasn't even because of YouTube. It's just I happened to know the hiring manager already and the recruiter already. I knew them because I kind of worked with them before. So that's one thing that you can kind of do to kind of bend fate in your favor. And the way to do this in an organic way, I know it's like not really easy, but just do a good job. Like when you get hired somewhere, you don't have to be really extroverted or anything. Just be nice to people, do a good job at work. And then when you quit, just be like as nice as you can about it, and do knowledge transfer and clean stuff up and keep your connections good. And that's kind of how you organically build your social network. Of course, that's one of the things. It's like a catch-22. You have to get a job first and all that. Just keep it in mind, because that's really the play, to be honest, is to use your social network. But I don't talk about it a lot because like not everybody has one. But yeah, social network, we're like bend fate in your favor for sure. Another way to bend fate is kind of reaching, this is like hard by the way, but it's reaching a demigod status, is what I call demigod status. I don't know if this video is going to come out, like the desirability framework video. Basically, if you like hit all these areas and you're just like so strong and you're like not the best, but like one of the really strong people in your field, you almost don't really have to do anything, especially if you have like a presence online. You don't need to be like an influencer or something. But, if you have like, you're always posting on LinkedIn, you're like helping people in the community, and it's like really apparent that you're good at what you do, it becomes much more easy to get jobs, if that makes sense. An example of using your demigod status to bend fate, right, would be, say a boxing gym is trying to hire like a boxing trainer, right? But the gym owner doesn't like black people, right? For whatever reason. But Floyd Mayweather comes along. He's like, "Oh, I like the area. Like, can I work here?" It's unlikely that the gym owner is going to tell him no, even despite him not liking black people, because Floyd Mayweather is like, a demigod in the sense that he has like exceptional abilities and he's well known by all. That kind of like bends fate, because if he's like a normal Joe, maybe his graph will look something like 99.9% no from fate, because like he's black, right? Racism. Because he's a demigod, right? It becomes it flips. It's like 99.9% green from fate, something like this. I hope this makes sense. It's kind of like a bit of a weird example, but it's kind of ways that you can quote unquote bend fate in your favor when it would have been working against you otherwise. So yeah, there are a lot of isms and stuff that we can't control, like the universe working against us, but it's really, really important for us to focus on what we can do and do the best we can in that area, and just do what we can in general. So if you're interested in getting to IT or cybersecurity, definitely check out both my courses. I built both of these on the employability framework, and I structured them well to kind of maximize the chance of you getting a job and like minimizing the speed to actually getting a job. A lot of people have gotten jobs with these already. I think there's like 3,000 people in the IT course, and then 1,500 or so in the cybersecurity course, but definitely check them out. I'll put links in the description. Email me at the email address in my YouTube channel if you have questions about the course content or anything like that. And yeah, we will see you in the next video.